we'll go ahead and kick it off. It is 3 after and get started. Everybody who's on the line, welcome. My name's Steve Bowles, and I've got Chris McWilliams, both of us from Ephesoft. And today's webinar will outline how you can leverage artificial intelligence to automate one of the most costly pieces of the Procure-to-Pay puzzle and enhance your NetSuite workflows. Quick infomercial before we get started. If you aren't familiar with Ephesoft, we're a decade-old company that focuses on automation of document-based processes and provide cutting-edge solutions to age-old problems that continue to plague businesses even here in 2021. Today, we're going to focus on a problem that just about every AP department encounters during day-to-day operations, the problem. I'll give you a quick set of slides before we show you a live demo of our solution as a front-end processor for NetSuite and how our solution can raise your operation to best-in-class status. So to begin, let's examine the present-day challenges that constantly plague the accounting team and specifically accounts payable. Unless you've been hiding in a forest cabin, you're aware of our world today. Endless pandemic, civil unrest, large market fluctuations, stressed and exhausted staff, the kind of things that create unpredictable cash flow, significant changes in operations, and a change in overall mindset. Our business environment has changed forever, whether we like it or not, and there's those who will adapt and those who will become laggards when it comes to business performance and the implementation of digital workflows. Average performance in this constantly changing environment can prevent business agility and the ability to rebound from future unexpected changes. Along with the obvious remote work challenges that we've all been immersed in, the stops and starts of the pandemic response across the globe has created supply chain and vendor issues. So supplies and raw materials are still unavailable, extremely expensive, or they've had delayed shipment times. Partial shipments, partial billing has become a pervasive headache for accounts payable, and freight costs have impacted the cost of goods and supplies. These all have compounded the invoice problem by requiring extensive validation and exceptions processing, and further necessitated the need for process speed, flexibility, and adaptability. So with all these challenges, where do we start to reinvent and what do we do to improve our existing AP processes? It can be overwhelming for some, especially small to mid-sized businesses. Really, we just need to put a stake in the ground, establish to judge our performance when it comes to AP, and then choose the right technology solution. So to start, I'll come out with a very forthright question. How does your AP department rank among its peers? If my accounting department's working, nothing's broken, and there's no problems, isn't average good enough? I mean, hey, if I'm average, I'm better than some, worse than others, but just cruising. That's okay, right? Maybe in the past that was okay, but over the past 15 months or so, organizations have had time to really focus on their weaknesses and hone their digital game. So working remote and being forced to move to fully digital flows has been an awakening for adept companies that have turned that digital game into market leverage. That is for organizations that are best in class. So we have the great privilege at Ephesoft of getting a broad view of our AP customers and our partners and seeing firsthand the power of what freeing up employees to higher level tasks and driving initiatives for the business and organization as a whole can do. So we'll share some of those insights as we go through and definitely show it off in the demo as we proceed here. So I'll make a statement. Average is pervasive. Of course it is, right? It's average. So in today's day and age, with the rise of AI and other technologies, sometimes we scratch our head and say, why is there such a disparity in AP organizations? So before we get to the real metrics and numbers, let's look at some of the statistics out there in the market. AP is really the poster child for automation and efficiency opportunity. And as shown in these Ardent Partner statistics, we still have a ton of manual processing, hand keying of data, and quite a bit of AP staff time that's spent on exceptions processing. So in the AP world with this target, let's take a look at some and talk a little bit about some standardized things you can look at to kind of judge your performance. So companies like ours build great software to automate things. Talk about that baseline, and there's some metrics you can look at internally, and we'll give these to you, and you can contact us if you'd like to get these or go to our AP calculator. The first metric is cost. So this is just a function of the time it takes you from start to finish, plus what you pay your AP staff, right? Inefficient organizations can also incur fines for late payments. Staff time can be lost on invoices, and exceptions and missed opportunities for savings can plague organizations. The time to process. So the time you receive an invoice, how long does it take to identify, enter data, get it approved, and then pay? So what's your touchless processing rate or percentage? How many of your vendor invoice documents go from start to finish? We mentioned. And then the last metric is, what is your exception rate? So invoice use errors, improperly keyed or entered data, and the list goes on and on. So this is what defines average in the AP world. So this is the first metrics. Each core metrics is assigned that number, and each individual step within invoicing has a breakdown if you look below. And a blow up of those tasks I'm required to put. So you can see that manual data entry and invoice validation take up the majority of the time. The great news is that's something that we can really help with at Ephesoft, and once again we'll show that and show how that can have a great impact and where AI can fit in on early focuses. So what are the steps, and how do we get ahead of the pack and kind of leave average behind? We set up a definition of best-in-class invoice processing for AP, and where can we focus to rise above our peers and really get that process running smoothly. So the first question that comes to most people's mind is, why are AP departments having this difficulty, and why are the averages on the KPIs so low? I mean, this is 2021, right? The age of AI and automation and bots. Can't we just get a bot to do it and automate it? The truth of the matter is that the majority of businesses still process invoices the same way they did at the turn of the century. The PDF has just replaced paper for the most part. The hard ledger has been replaced by a digital ledger, which is your ERP or your financial system. But the majority of companies still get approvals, still enter data, and do it all the 100-year-old method. So accounting departments have been under some serious gravity to call the ERP. So even if you leverage a cloud-based ERP like NetSuite, you still have ancillary processes, workflows, and applications that link the physical world and the on-premise world to that cloud-based system. So for AP specifically, you really need to have a digital on-ramp for paper invoices, PDF invoices that are inbound to your organization to optimize that flow of documents and data. So we know the problem. We've ID'd our KPIs and where we need to focus for measurement. How do we choose the right technology to move forward? So you can really go numb today with all the acronyms and market noise that's out there on cutting edge technologies and how they can take you to the promised land. Here's a quick peek at the hottest technical trends in accounting from a technology perspective: AI, RPA, workflow. So it's really difficult for organizations to kind of wade through all the fluff and find their path to optimization. So if we stay focused on our topic and look to drive efficiencies and improvements in invoice processing, AI is really the best bet to accomplish that task. And I love my statistics and my charts, so I'll throw in. CFOs know that AI is where to go. They just don't know how to get started. If you look at this predictive poll from back in 2019, it shows that AI in accounting is forefront of their minds and on the roadmap as a must-implement technology. So over 49% of CFOs in this Gartner poll said that AI would be a focus area for them beyond just about any other technology. Another one, McKinsey did a deep study on the pay process and points out that the invoice to pay has the highest potential for complete automation. Although invoice processing to them was a somewhat difficult problem to solve. Of course, we have a solution for that. So with all that information, we know that AI solutions can help. We know AI is a reality, but the question becomes, is it just reserved for those large organizations with access to data and unlimited budgets? The technical landscape has really changed, and solutions for specific problems like the AP invoice problem are readily available now for all types of organizations, from small businesses up to large businesses. But before we move forward, I like to do a level set. I always like to get definitions out of the way. And before we get started, I'm going to go what I call full moto, master the obvious, and do a level set to make sure we're all on the same page. This is the definition of AI, or artificial intelligence, the capability of a machine to imitate human behavior. Imitate is subjective. And when you work with vendors or AI vendors, you want to make sure that you're on the same page and that everybody understands this term and has a level set definition. So for some, it could be the basic data entry off an invoice. For others, you could take the next step and apply a GL code automatically to line items, or you could go full throttle and make strategic decisions or business-based decisions based on an analysis of data and documentation. So really know what it means to you, and more importantly, what it means to your software vendors. So I put this slide in here just as a flag for anybody looking at AI-based solutions. Just level set is really important, especially when you see it. And we'll actually show you what AI means to us today, as Chris shows you how we can process those invoices. One last chart before we go. I've mentioned already that AI is hitting the mainstream and that it's available to companies of all different sizes. This is another Deloitte study that shows that companies are using AI to make processes more efficient, make employees more productive, to lower cost and reduce headcount, which is something that all controllers and CFOs are looking to do within their agency. So at this point, you've got a lot of information. You're saying, I'd love to get started. Where do I start, and how do I designate a target for improvement, and what results can you expect by implementing an AI solution? So we'll go back and we'll revisit average. I want you to take a peek and look at these. Cost to process above $10, time to process an invoice 10 days, and then the straight through processing and invoice rates. What we focus on, and the way we leverage AI, is to really impact these metrics and make a dramatic change in how you process paperwork through your accounting department. So best-in-class organizations and results typically from our implementations, you'll see a 5 to 7x decrease in costs and time to process, a 3x improvement in straight-through processing, and these results are not rare. They're the norm typically with an intelligent application that automates document-centric process. Okay, so quick note, best-in-class is not a dream. It's achievable. We see it over and over. And this can really be a great project to start the transformation, not only of the AP department, but also of your organization as a whole. So with that said, I'm going to flip it to Chris McWilliams, and he's going to show you what it actually looks like. Got it, Chris.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Steve. That was a great overview. I always learn something when you present all that. So I'm really excited here to take you through a demonstration of our platform, Semantic, by Ephesoft. And probably 90% or it's usually what I see where an invoice enters the organization is usually by email. Some organizations are a little more split, 50% snail mail, 50% email. I email demos really well, so I kind of like to start the demo off by looking at some email attachments. So AP teams usually receive documents this way. If you're receiving mail, we have solutions that allow you to scan it and directly import into Semantic. So it's virtually the same process. So this is the reality that AP teams are faced. They get all sorts of stuff. This is a document rotated sideways. It's a scanned document. It's an invoice. We'll just look at a couple of these. Here's a kind of a paper handwritten invoice. We have some really powerful technology that can solve for handprint recognition. There's another invoice, multi-page. This one is even more pages, 4 pages of a lot of line items that you need to manage. And these last 3 invoices are actually PO-based invoices. So usually accounting teams are either it's either heavy PO based. If you're in NetSuite, usually more people are taking advantage of POs, which makes a lot of sense if you're buying a lot of goods or reselling. So this is a couple of different POs. We're going to look at the PO in NetSuite here in a moment, and just kind of show you how all that fits together. Here's another one. So I have a mix of PO, non-PO'd invoices, handwritten, multi-page. They're kind of all over the map, which is really what a lot of AP departments face. So to kick off a process in Semantic, it's very easy. You just would, when we provision your account or you sign up for an account, you get a email address that you can forward documents to, and some people will even make automated rules through their email clients to just automatically forward different invoices onto the process here. So it's very easy to kick this off. Before I jump into it, I just kind of want to remind people what it's like to enter documents into NetSuite. Since that's kind of what we're focusing. This is the enter bill screen. You can see if you don't embrace the AI that Steve is talking about, basically you're presented with a screen like this, and it's blank, and you have to enter in everything, right? The terms, the vendor, the line items, all the different things. You need to, if you're storing the document, you got to name the document, you got to attach it. It becomes, this is what people struggle with. And then compounding that, a lot of people using NetSuite will have a lot of customizations, a lot of extra scripts that will run, and it actually just makes adding and navigating to these screens even slower or that much painful. So with our solution, what I'll show you here in a moment, is we're going to detach the bill entry screen from NetSuite, so we can actually streamline and batch process these documents in. So those invoices I've sent into Semantic. I did want to just show this. This is one of my purchase orders. So I have a purchase order here ending in 150, and you can see there's multiple lines on that purchase order. And some of the invoices that I've sent in are partially billed. So we can actually, with our Semantic workflow, be able to look the item numbers up, look at the PO number up, match it against, and then really have a clean process through the system. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's go over to Semantic here. And I just refreshed my dashboard. So I've logged into Semantic Invoice, and you'll notice each line here is representative of one of those invoice transactions you saw in my email. So when you forward them in, they're going to create and start, the AI will start analyzing the document. You'll notice there's 3 documents here that are marked as completed and have been assigned to the semantic assistant. So if a human being does not actually touch the invoice, and the AI has seen it and it's above all the confidences, then it'll be assigned to the semantic assistant and it'll go straight through. This is the holy grail of AP process, which we call, I call it a home run or a straight through process. There's lots of different terms for it. But this is just a great way where if you do have high confidence from the AI, it'll just streamline and you don't necessarily have to be bogged down by that particular transaction. So there's 3 here that kicked off. I'm going to go check my email, and I actually have a few different email notifications. So the first one that came in was this cord invoice, which it gathered all the information. I actually have a rule. This is a non-PO'd invoice. So you can see in my inbox, I have an AP approval task that needs to be solved. So I have a rule inside my workflow that says if it's a non-PO'd invoice and it's the invoice is above $5,000, route it for an approval. That's just kind of a simple example. This is another advantage that you can or another feature you can take advantage of within Semantic. Whereas if you have users, NetSuite licensing can be expensive, and you might not have all your users or AP approvers licensed in NetSuite. So you can actually decouple that and run a simple AP approval task through our application, much more affordable than you might if you're using all the NetSuite approval features. If you want to use those, you can use those too. You have options. So this is what our approval looks like. So you click on that, it'll basically take you over to the document approval. This is the core industries. You can see all this data here, the invoice number, the amount, the vendor name, that all came back from the Semantic AI. You can put a link to the document and go look at that particular document if you want to. So you can see it, the approver can review it. This is a great way to not allow information to leak your organization. So if you can store the document versus attaching it to an email, you're keeping a better retention, better security policies, not bogging your email server down with a lot of email attachments. So it's a great way to do it this way. Then you can just simply approve or reject the document. So I'll just approve it. And at that point, the approval will be marked. I'll get another notification that it's been processed. And then eventually, once it's uploaded to NetSuite, that core industry, I'll get another final confirmation here in a moment. So I have a couple other ones here. So this is actually that PO that we looked at for the quality mats. There was 2 different invoices that I received to match on that purchase order. So now I can actually hit this link. I'll actually we'll go to the purchase order first, so you can see. So this purchase order has been should be fully billed. So you can see now before this purchase order, the billed quantities were zeros. Now we've actually billed against that purchase order and really done partial billing. Like Steve was saying, there's with a lot of shortages and just lags in manufacturing today, people are seeing a spike in invoices and POs are not being filled instantaneously, there's a lot of partial or back orders, so which generates more invoices. So you can see now, if I go to related records, I have 2 new invoices that are bills that are attached to this PO, and I can click on it. And that's really kind of have two bills that have been used to fulfill that purchase order there. You can also build in logic to manage the filing, the file cabinet within NetSuite. So if you are using the NetSuite file cabinet, we can create a naming convention for how you want to store those documents and attach it to the bill. So this is that quality mat invoice that you saw, 2 different lines on it. So very clean, very easy, and you'll notice I haven't edited or touched anything in NetSuite at this point. It's all been just kind of exception pieces here. So there's another one. This is the other PO. So this PO of ending in 150 is basically closed out. Let's go back to semantic. So I just showed you the 3 home runs that went through the process. Now let's look at a couple other examples. So AI is sometimes it's low confident or not entirely sure of what it picked, so it might need some user intervention or some help. So we have a very clean, easy to use turnkey review system that we use inside Semantic. So if for these 4 new invoices that haven't been processed, I can actually hit this claim invoices, and that will grab them and assign them to me as an AP reviewer, and basically present me. This is actually where I can interact with the AI a little bit. And you'll notice when I click in this document, you'll see all the fields that are needed to be captured, and we can require fields. We can set up rules on what is picked and what is not, and really easy to use. So you see all your fields here on the left or on the right, and you can navigate through it. So it's very easy to just complete review. You can see here due date is required. So maybe I will put the due date here, a month out, something like that. And you can very easily review these documents and then push them through, right? So it's just a simple click, and basically that will send that particular document through the rules inside NetSuite and upload it. This is another one. So this is another document. This is again that other PO'd one. All the data is here. You'll notice there's a percentage on the right-hand side. That's the actual AI prediction of the value that the software selected. So we have a confidence rating there. This is net 30. Looks good. Maybe there's some low quality document issues or whatever that lowered this confidence, but this is actually a sliding scale that you can actually set these thresholds and control how strict or lenient you want the AI to be. So again, this is some of the data. Total amounts are here. The line items are also all present. So we have the ability to look for columns and rows on the document for the actual line items. So this is really a clean way to grab these different documents or different rows and columns. And if you need to, you can add more rows here and index it, or add, do multi-select of different rows and delete them. You can do all sorts of different things to really kind of make this efficient and speedy. We can, some customers want to code things inside Semantic, so we have a field that allows you to do GL coding as well. So very easy to kind of see all the information you need to make a decision or act on. Couple other things, you'll notice this vendor. So we will actually sync the vendor table or do a lookup on the NetSuite vendor. So we can, when we connect to your NetSuite account, we'll download all the vendors and their addresses and their information, and then start making predictions on, this invoice is related to this vendor, and 1650 is my internal NetSuite vendor ID, for example. So again, very easy to just review this, push it through. This is another invoice where this is a handprint one, so you can actually click on it and see the data that we've captured. It's pretty impressive on if you do get handprint kind of documents like this can be very helpful. And even the line items, if the line items are written, we can even, the AI is going to attempt to pull all that information out as well. So, and then lastly, this document, you'll notice, if you remember way back in the beginning, it was rotated. So the AI is going to automatically rotate the document. So it's, if you get the document in, it'll do all that for you. So just again, all these little, I think of it as like a lot of different death by 1,000 needles, right? Death by 1,000 little processes. If you have to rotate the document, that's another thing you have to do. And it can bog your AP department down. So again, all the information's here. You can capture them. You can see all the document, the data. Again, you can, it's not going to let you go if you don't have all the required fields. And then once you have all green lights, you can release that document and send it through. So I'll go back to my email one final time here, and I'll just show you a couple more confirmations. So here's that Cord Industries. That was the one that went through the through our AP approval tasks. And this is just a confirmation email, just so we can see it, of all the data and when it was approved on. And I can click on that, and that will be a link to that bill record in NetSuite. So again, really simple to use, can really increase efficiency in your process. So a couple more things. So you'll see as I'm processing these, it's just completing them, and all of these documents have been sent into NetSuite. So there's a PO. We've matched on the PO on that third and final PO invoice, and the rest is all here. So a couple things. That's kind of the end of my demo, or really that's how we took an email of just a bunch of different PDF files and TIFF files, and we pushed them into process and really let them go all the way to the end, and really drove some pretty impressive efficiencies, which would take a lot of time if I had to do those 6 different invoices all by hand. A couple other things. So when we talk about implementation and using the software inside your NetSuite, a lot of people have a lot of different NetSuite customizations or improvements. So we use what we call as a recipe that holds all the rules of how we want to write the bill to NetSuite and do different lookups. So with that comes a library of recipes that we can pull into different projects. So just to give you an idea, this is a little more technical than you might want, but this is if you want to drive AP approval, there's a recipe that we can just enable in your account, and you can customize it, or we can work with you to customize it and do all different things. The terms, if you have terms on an invoice, you might want to normalize those terms to the NetSuite terms. So we have a recipe for that. So there's all sorts of different things when we're talking about accelerating an implementation and making things more turnkey. These are the kind of tools on our tool belt that we can draw from. Lastly, I'll just show you quickly what a recipe looks like. So this is the recipe that we ran the rules through. So This is a little more used a little more in the setup or the implementation, but you'll notice there's no code here. Everything is a low code, no code, very simple set of instructions and steps that you'll go through. So very easy to customize this and add different checks and statements and all sorts of different things. So very flexible. I think it's important to when you're using this kind of solution, you need a flexible kind of, I call it rigid flexibility, allows you to fit your particular AP process into your NetSuite environment. So with that, Steve, I will probably draw down here and pass it back to you.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks for that overview. Let me grab. You still there?
I'm here.
Okay. I'm having some problems. If you can display, if you can just display your desktop, my controls for the webinar seem to have disappeared. But oh, here we go. I got it back. Sorry about that. All right. So we'll go ahead and while we're taking questions, we'll go ahead and see if we have any from the crowd interface and also a chat interface. You can send them either way. It looks like we've got our first question. We have our own workflow and integration system. Do you work or are you friendly with other systems beyond your workflow tool? And I'm gonna say a resounding yes to that. You can buy just the front end AI for the invoices, or you can purchase it along with our workflow and integration component. Chris, you have anything to add on to that?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, if you're technical, the easiest way to get data out of the semantic through AI is through a very simple webhook. So any integration application that can catch the data through an API or webhook, you're going to be able to leverage the semantic AI in a very quickly clean data model way.
Perfect. And that kind of ties into the next I have is email the only way to get invoices in? As Chris mentioned, we've got a full suite of APIs that let you do everything from upload. There's a webhook on the back end of the process where you can get alerted when there's new invoices or data available. And then we also allow you to synchronize your vendor table through API with the application. Any other questions? Okay, I got one more. What does it cost? Always love that question. The application is actually licensed based on throughput or volume of invoices, and it ranges anywhere from $3,000 a year up to much higher amounts depending on the volume that you push through. And then the workflow components are a little bit extra on top of that. So if you have questions on that, you can go to semantic.ephesoft.com and get some more information. That looks like the end of the questions there. Chris, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that's it's a great overview. I think it's a great time to take advantage of technology like that. It's only getting even easier and easier to implement. So I would love to have a conversation and understand what's bogging your processes down. So thanks.
Yeah, sounds good. And let me share my screen. I got my slides a little jumbled there, but I'll go ahead and throw up the link. If you have questions, you want copies or more info, copies of the presentation, more info, or you want a live demo or even a trial, you can go to semantic.ephesoft with a K, or just scan this code with your phone. You can capture the URL and ask for more information. Thanks everyone for attending, and this is recorded, so we'll send out a link to the recording. If you have some folks in your organization that you want, you can do that as well. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.